We will call this meeting to order here for the budget hearing for neighborhoods, recreation, and parks to discuss that 2025 operating budget. And this $1.23 million budget is a result of months of hard work by our department's directors, officers, fiscal managers, various employees have done an incredible amount of work. And we all want to acknowledge the hours of staff time that went into putting this proposed budget together. And I'd also like to thank all these great people we have out here, including my colleague, Vice Chair of Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, Councilmember Weich. Thank you for being here today. We're grateful to be joined by our amazing department leadership. From Rec and Parks, we have Director Bernita Reese, Elaine Hostetler, Tad Alexander, and Alexis Passes. Then from Neighborhoods, we have Director Kim Douglas, Deputy Director Todd Diefendorfer, and Bianca Bell. And from Sustainable Columbus, we have Grayson Hart. Thank you all for spending your afternoon with me here in Chambers, walking us through your department's budgets and answering questions on how the budget will impact our residents. Now, since assuming the role of chair of this committee, I've been fortunate to work closely with the departments to expand initiatives, implement new programs, but mostly during this first year, it's been time spent learning from the remarkable people who do the real work. What I've learned is that these departments have such a massive impact on our city, oftentimes without residents even knowing. From conservation tree plantings, block party funding, to special event permitting, alley cleanups, tree trimming, there's just an incredible amount of work that our departments do. And these departments also help employ and engage youth year-round as a form of violence intervention. They support volunteer civic leaders advocating for their neighborhoods. They maintain the most beautiful and natural parts of our city, and they keep us environmentally responsible in order to reduce the effects of climate change. I also know, as has been talked about in other hearings on the budget, that we're entering an uncertain and potentially challenging time with our city's finances, a phenomenon experienced nationwide as federal ARPA funds end this year. And so I look forward to using this hearing to discuss both the administration's and council's commitment to ensuring that our services to residents go on as uninterrupted as possible in the upcoming year. And with that, I will pause and see if my colleague, Councilmember Weich, has anything to say.
Thank you, Chair. First, I will just echo your gratitude and appreciation for all the staff who are here today and putting these presentations together. It's the end of the year. We got the holidays coming up and a million other things that you're working on at the same time. So for you to make the time to be here for this budget hearing is definitely appreciated. And then to you, Chair, and your staff for all the hard work that they do and behind the scenes to kind of get us to this point. Thank you as well. I will forewarn, I have my little people running around City Hall. So if they approach me on the dais, just assume they're an unpaid staffer and accept my apologies. But with that, Chair, I'm good. Thank you.
We should have had them sit up here in the council president's chair. Well, let us now get started with our presentations from departments. So first we have the Department of Neighborhoods. Director Douglas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Deacauer. We will get the mic together so that I am not yelling. My apologies. Thank you, Councilmember Deacauer and Councilmember Weich, for the opportunity to provide an overview of the Department of Neighborhood's 2025 operating budget proposal. For 2025, the department's proposed budget is $15,224,064. This is a slight increase of $1.7 million from our 2024 budget. This includes 68 full-time and 2 part-time staff. The $1.7 million is accounted for in an increase to our summer youth employment funding that you will hear about later in my discussion. I am excited about what our proposed budget will allow the department to achieve in 2025. We are fortunate to start from a strong foundation based on the team's achievements in 2024. I'd like to discuss our budget in the context of the services that we provide and the direct impact to the communities across the city. First, let's discuss the front door of Columbus, 311. The 311 Customer Service Center is on track to set a new record with over 520,000 customer contacts in 2024. This includes increased usage of the CBUS 311 mobile app, the website, and the callback feature by residents to submit service requests. This record usage of the system includes a time period when an alternate manual process was implemented to record and route service requests due to the cyber incident. I am appreciative of all that the team did to ensure residents could continue to access the system during this time period, as well as the cooperation we received from other service departments. We will continue to look for new ways to better serve the residents in 2025. This will include updating service request types to ensure their purpose is clear to residents, hiring temporary staff to provide additional capacity to process bulk trash collection requests, which are the largest requests that we receive by far at 311. We will also be launching a new feature on our website to allow residents to search for requests by service request number. This will especially be helpful for residents when they submit or request anonymously. Next, I'd like to share our work to educate residents on how they can be a part of the solution to dispel myths and halt discrimination and hate towards our differently abled or other communities. With council support in 2024, our Community Relations Commission hosted 2 half-day advocacy and action conferences. The events focused on gender identity and national origin discrimination. The Speak Up, Spark Change campaign will launch this month and use videos, social media posts, paid advertisement to educate residents about their civil rights and how the commission can help them. Our CRC investigator communicated with more than 60 individuals regarding potential or submitted discrimination complaints just this year. Employment discrimination was the area receiving the most complaints. One of our most recognizable groups in the Department of Neighborhoods is our neighborhood liaisons. In 2024, their tireless and dedicated work continued to support residents across Columbus. In my first weeks as director, I had the pleasure of hosting and emceeing the annual Neighborhood Best Practices Conference that provided over 140 residents with the opportunity to learn more about important issues, including Link Us and Zone In. The collective contribution of our liaisons provided a wildly successful event. As we talk about council, as the administration talks, it's impossible not to have collaborations with other departments. And so in collaboration with the Department of Public Service and Council Member Remy, the liaisons implemented a new contract with the Center for Community Solutions to clean up trash and weeds along roads and in alleyways. Since August, 1,100 cubic yards of waste and debris have been removed from 4,500 linear feet of sidewalks, streets, and alleys. Our budget in 2025 will continue that work. Returning and newly elected area commissioners were provided the opportunity to participate in 12 trainings in 2024, with topics including zoning process and applications and effective meeting management, including Robert's Rules of Orders. In 2025, that series will also include some fiscal training around area commission budgeting allocations. We appreciate the partnership with you, Councilmember Day-Ak-Gower, to launch a new marketing campaign to boost the awareness of area commissions. Based on the feedback from our partnership and from the community, new materials are being developed that will build awareness and increase the interest in becoming involved and possibly becoming and growing more area commissioners. The Eastland Plan is nearly complete thanks to the hard work of our planning staff, the Neighborhood Strategies team, our consultant team led by MKSK, and the community. The plan will be released in February and was crafted based on the feedback from over 1,600 people in 3 public meetings with 5 topic workshops and 10 focus groups. That's a lot of numbers, but I wanted to illustrate to you the involvement of the community and how they saw their voice and how they see this plan as their way to move forward with how their community will look in the future. In 2024, we made investments in alignment with the goals of the One Linden and Envision Hilltop Plan that will boost business development and student success. Next, I'd like to talk to you about our New Americans program. The New American Leadership Academy, which we affectionately refer to as NALA, continued with 22 individuals completing the program in 2024. To help build the connection between our New American and native-born residents, the Mbutu Conversation Series and One Columbus Culture Day were launched this year as well. One Columbus Culture Day showcased cultural performances and New American serving organizations. The Mbutu series provided opportunities to talk about being inclusive in neighborhoods and debunking stereotypes. The New Americans team continued to provide translation and interpretation services for all city departments. Spanish, French, Nepali, Somali, and Arabic have been identified as the most frequently accessed languages. We saw an increase of 20% in usage from 106 requests in 2023. Next, I'd like to talk about our Rise Up C-Bus program. Our Mobile City Hall is our beautifully wrapped conversion van and one of our most recognizable assets around the city. Mobile City Hall engaged residents at over 74 community events in 2024. We would be remiss by not acknowledging our partnership with Rex and Parks and being able to do that across the city in a way that not only engaged our community, but also engaged our fellow colleagues in ways that information was able to go out across the city in common areas provided by Rex and Parks that allowed us to do a partnership that was wildly successful as well. In 2024, the department managed 43 summer youth program contracts, for a total of $4.8 million. An additional $1.7 has been added, as I referenced at the beginning of my opening remarks. As I close my comments, I'd like to highlight more of the department's work with the city's young people. The Commission on Black Girls funded 5 programs in 2024 that allowed 276 girls to participate in leadership, enrichment, and mentoring programming. Their ambassador initiative was launched in 2024, and it helped to equip Black girls in skills in advocacy, public speaking, research, and networking. Simultaneously, as we were attentive to the needs of our young girls, we have been intentional in planning and equipping our young men for their futures through the My Brother's Keeper program. In 2024, the My Brother's Keeper program engaged with youth through a wide variety of programming. This included hosting a summer youth manufacturing camp at the Columbus City Preparatory School for Boys. This provided nearly 40 middle school students with the opportunity to learn about 3D design and to tour local manufacturing businesses. We are also excited that we were invited by the Obama Foundation's MBK Alliance to apply for an accelerator grant. This grant will provide $200,000 over 2 years for our office to achieve population-level impact in our chosen milestone, which is graduating from high school. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share the 2024 department budget highlights and our 2025 proposed work. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director. My first question is about the Eastland Plan. Pre-pandemic, I was a resident participating in the plan that became Envision Hilltop, and just loved the level of community engagement and the great variety of ways that people were brought together and given opportunities to share the hopes and dreams they had for their community. And so now that you've completed the groundwork for Eastland Plan, how do you see the work starting for that implementation of this new Eastland Plan in 2025?
Part of the plan, Councilmember Deakauer and Co-Chair Weich, the plan involves a roadmap with catalytic opportunities like the Columbus State and Mid-Ohio Food Collective. A few weeks ago, the mayor was at the site of the old Kroger located on the east side, and that will be the site for the Mid-Ohio Food Collective to not only bring their resources, but to allow city offices to also inhabitate that space, and our area commissions to be able to have space that will bring the community together in ways that simply were not available in our smaller location in other places. And so as we follow this roadmap that the community has put together, we anticipate and expect that the community will engage us in the ways that are outlined with Columbus State's partnership with the Mid-Ohio Food Collective and with the design of parks in the area such as NAFSCR and others that are there.
That's some wonderful opportunities in that location. That's really exciting. We also have some new Far East and West Side Pride Centers that are coming about for 2025. I want to share about those new centers and how they are helpful to our communities.
If I may, Councilmember Deakauer,
You can
Councilmember
toss
White.
it to.
I would like to allow my Deputy Director, Todd Diefendorfer, to give some of the history on that. He has been with the department for quite some time, and he is a gem of knowledge for us, and so I think his input here would be more valuable. Thank you.
We love to hear from Todd, too.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Council members. We are very excited about the potential to move the West Side Pride Center as well as the Far East Pride Center into new locations next year. So the property the Director was just talking about with the Mid-Ohio Food Collective out on the Refugee Road area is going to be our new home for the Far East Pride Center. And the renovated Fire Station 10 on Broad Street will be the new home for what's currently, we're in a rental property right now. Both of those are very exciting because they offer expanded meeting space. So we know our area commissions and our civic groups are always looking for places to convene. So we'll have enhanced space that way. We've also been talking with our area commissions as we think about the future of the Pride Centers and getting their thoughts about what else could we offer to them at these locations to help them in their day-to-day operations. So looking to add some more ability for them to use the Pride Centers. Another thing that is exciting, especially when it comes to the West Side, we currently have 311 representatives in all of our other neighborhood Pride Centers. And this is a cool way for our 311 representatives to be at community meetings to answer questions. If there's residents who need some one-on-one help with this system, they can meet with them. The way things are at the current West Side Pride Center, there's not space available to have that. So we now will have the space there at West for future expansion to add 311 team members into that location. So very excited about that.
As a West Sider, I'm very excited because, yes, the current facility is really tiny. And it's not really functional, so this is a great opportunity to be able to bring community members together and have a space where they can gather. My last question is about the New American Leadership Academy. I had the pleasure of being there when it was kicked off for the start of the session and when their cohort graduated. What preparations are happening for the 2025 class?
We are currently in the interview process for our 2025 class, and if you would give me a moment to identify, it was an impressive number of applications that we have. We have 53 applicants, and in that, 27 different nationalities and cultural groups are represented. And for the first time, we have in our pool representative from China, Palestine, Kurdistan, Ireland, and Belarus.
Wow.
So we are excited about.
That's very exciting.
I agree. The 2024 class was impressive, and now as we look forward to 2025, we can see the momentum that is building with the alumni from the program and the benefit of good work being word of mouth and the applicant quality that is coming through. And we're excited about looking forward to the class of 2025.
It was an amazing group that I met at that, as they completed at the graduation, and the things that how they've expanded their experience here in Columbus as a part of that program. And the level of diversity is incredible. People don't really realize just how incredibly diverse Columbus is, the many languages that are spoken, the many cultures, and that's a great opportunity for them to come together and learn how to share their story and contribute to our community. So thank you so much for continuing that program. Does my colleague, Councilmember White, have any
I
questions?
do, Chair, just one. First, Director, thank you again for kind of going through and walking through the budget. My question was related to 311. Obviously, as Chair of Public Utilities Sustainability, refuse being a key part of what we do over there, I'm not surprised that 311 is getting a ton of calls about trash and littered alleys. So I do appreciate that. And then even going in this year with a cyber attack that's really kind of damaged our communication systems, it has been troubling to ensure that the information is flowing accurately from the resident to the departments to resolve the issues that they bring. And so I appreciate all the hard work the department has done to really kind of work through that. My question really is, going into 25, are there plans to kind of further streamline the communication between residents, departments? Obviously, the new app is going to be helpful for people to kind of look up their cases so they don't have to feel like they have to keep putting things in, but just curious if there's more improvements to come.
Chair Deac, Co-Chair, Councilmember White. Yes, there is. There are plans to continue to make sure that the front-facing information that the community receives is more accurate. As you know, 311 serves as the front door, and so we take in the information, and the processes that happen behind that are often not seen by the public. So as I mentioned, there will be a new feature that was part of the legacy system that is being brought over that residents can use to track the status. We are also having an internal conversation between us and our colleagues and other departments on how to make the language in 311 more accurate and visible. And so there are drop downs that happen once information is put into 311, and just making sure that the statuses read something other than closed that may say in action, in progress, or reported. And so we're having that conversation, and we're working in partnership with technology on a new IVR system that will just allow for a bit more flexibility in what we can do on our side, which again will give more accuracy to the public when they call in. So I would also like to share one innovative thing that we've done just here at the end of the year. And so we often talk about seasonal work. Because we know that there may be an uptick in calls that we may receive if there is a turn in the weather. We kind of branded ourselves as seasonal work for us here at 311, where we have been able to hire part-time staff to concentrate on those high-volume calls that we receive that are really more automated. And so once we allow that new staff to do seasonal work, right? If you can be seasonal at somewhere else, why not be seasonal at 311 and help us during that time period? So we're allowing them to help with the more structured and automated processes that can easily be done, and allowing our more seasoned 311 operators to engage with callers so that also removes some of that burden. So we're trying it out for this holiday season, and we're hoping that that will also net us some room and some ability to train, possibly in creating a pipeline for workers.
I love that. I mean, anytime you can kind of bring folks slowly on to develop those skills that they're going to need going forward, it helps to retain our own workforce growing and developing. Something kind of struck me, though, when you were talking about like seasonal requests, right? Obviously, we are in the cold season of Columbus. We'll see how long that stays. But warming centers are a big deal, right? When folks are calling 311, is that something in which they are able to get kind of direct information on available warming centers? I mean, I know that's out of left field, but just thinking through what you mentioned.
Sure, Councilmember, I'd be glad to respond to that. 3-in-1 has an extensive knowledge base on a variety of issues. We're not quite the information referral line for social services in that regard. But when people do call in regarding housing, that sort of an issue, they are given the phone number to call for the front door for that service. And we have those sort of resources for other issues that exist as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's something worth exploring, like an automated, if you're looking for warming or cooling centers, here's the current updated list. That requires us to be proactive and plan ahead of time to know where we will send people. But it struck me when you mentioned kind of seasonal issues that popped up. So I appreciate you answering the question.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Director Douglas and Deputy Director, and for your team, for your presentation today. Now, if you have anything else to add, you can say no.
No, thank you.
I don't want you to feel like you have to embellish. So next, we will have our presentation from Director Reese's team from Recreation and Parks. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Chair Day Ockauer. We are excited to be here, and Vice Chair White, just to go over our budget. We have a team here with us, and we are going to yield the floor to start, and that is we have a person who will be speaking about neighborhoods, parks, and sustainability. If I'm not mistaken on this, correct? No. Oh, so I am all wrong, so I'm going to move that. So Elaine Hostetler, who is our fiscal manager, will be presenting our budget on today, but we do have a couple guests with us, and they are staff who will be speaking directly from their work areas. One is a partnership that we have with Public Health, and that's our VOICE program. And then our Centers Without Walls also will be sharing their expanded, I would say, program areas outside of our community centers. So we're going to get started with Elaine Hostetler as she presents our 2025 budget.
Good afternoon, Councilmember White and Chair Day Ockauer. My name's Elaine Hostetler. I'm the fiscal manager for the Rec and Parks Department, and it's my pleasure to present our 2025 budget request. The department's mission is to connect the people of our community through the power of nature, wellness, and creativity. We manage more than 400 parks, 32 community centers and specialty facilities, 5 athletic complexes, 6 golf courses, 8 pools, and 230 miles of trails. Our goal is to ensure that every resident, no matter their income or location in the city, has access to recreation and nature. I'd like to give you an overview of our budget to begin with. For the 2025 budget year, we've been approved for a total budget of $79,635,596. This is a 6% increase over 2024. The components that fund that budget are the following: the general fund transfer amount of $58,728,767. Our projected prior year encumbrance cancellations of $1.2 million, and our projected revenues for the department of $19.7 million. This revenue estimate is 5% over the second quarter 2024 projection, upon which 2025 estimates were based. We're projecting to see moderate increases due to expected additional program registration fees from our new Fran Ryan Center, which is scheduled to open January 8th, and expected increases in special event sponsorship revenue, and also increased traffic at our golf courses. Can you go to the next one? The proposed budget breakdown, this will provide funding for the following expenses. Our personnel we will spend 53.8 million, or 68% of our budget expense will go towards personnel expenses. This will fund 455 full-time and 1,700 part-time authorized positions. For materials and supplies, we are dedicating 4.5 million, or 6% of our budget. For services needed by the department, we dedicate 16.8 million, or 21% of our budget. And for other expenses, such as outside grants and other expenses, we have 4.2 million, 5% of our budget. Of the two sides of recreation and parks, 77% of our operating budget goes towards recreation programming for the public, and 23% is dedicated to the maintenance and preservation of our parks and natural spaces. I'd like to list a few of our notable contracts that kind of put our department in perspective. Some contracts, so the first one is security. We are budgeting a total of $710,000 for police and private security assistance at our facilities, primarily for our 8 outdoor pools, athletic events, festivals and special events, and traffic control for street tree maintenance. In utilities, we spend approximately $4.9 million to cover the expenses of utilities, including electric, gas, water, and telecom services for the department. We have a total of 47 facilities, 12 shelter houses, 6 golf courses, and 21 maintenance facilities that use all of these utilities. Chemicals. $630,000 is budgeted for chemicals used to maintain the health of turf at our athletic fields and golf courses, and for pool water at our pools. Youth transportation, $158,000 is budgeted for the safe transportation of youth attending our programs. School bus transportation is necessary primarily for summer programs to take participants on field trips, athletic events, and camps. Fleet, $2.3 million is budgeted for our city fleet costs, which includes all vehicles used by personnel, plus all vans and buses owned by the city and used to transport participants in our programs. Instructors and sports officials, we spend approximately $1.9 million to cover contracted instructors at our rec centers and sports officials. We contract with recreation and art instructors to teach over 2,150 classes in our recreation centers. The cost of these contracts is covered by 75% of the class fees, which are taken in as revenue. The remaining 25% of the class fee goes towards administrative costs. Sports officials are contracted with to officiate for our adult and youth sports leagues. In the past year, they've officiated at just under 14,000 games, including basketball, softball, kickball, volleyball, flag football, soccer, cheer, dance, and step, and gymnastics. And park restroom facilities. We spend $399,000 that's been budgeted for the cost of providing restroom facilities at many of our 422 parks and our 220 outdoor athletic fields. And finally, we have subsidies that we give annually, $350,000 to the Franklin Park Conservatory and $125,000 to the King Arts Complex. Next, I'd like to talk about some impacts to our budget. In 2025, we will be challenged by the elimination of all training and travel funding. A total of $335,000 will be eliminated as a cost-saving measure. The lack of these training dollars will mean that we will need to cover the following essential training with funds intended for other priorities. Roughly $130,000 that we typically spend for funding Red Cross lifeguard certifications and CPR certifications for our community center staff, boating certifications, safe pesticide application certifications, playground safety certifications, electric line clearance for tree trimmers, intervention and conflict resolution training for staff involved in programs with a high risk of violent encounters, and other necessary safety and educational training and certifications. We will also lose $25,000 for registration fees for swim meets attended by the new swim team program, which began in 2023. This program was developed as a feeder program to help provide the large number of qualified lifeguards needed to operate our 9 pools. A total of $26,000 will be lost in registration fees for sport leagues that our therapeutic recreation sports programs participate in. Athletes with disabilities compete in regional and national leagues, which require entry fees for competition. Our budget request includes one approved expansion of $965,000 to cover new expenses in our operating budget that were formerly funded as capital expenditures. Due to new guidance from the city auditor, there's been a shift in the interpretation and definition of capital eligibility. These funds will help compensate for the new operating expenses resulting from the new guidance. Expansion requests were also submitted to fund the operations of the new Fram Ryan Center located on the Near East Side, which is scheduled to open on January 8th, and for the neighborhood violence intervention programs known as Reroute and Voice. The Reroute and Voice programs have been funded through the American Rescue Plan Act to date. However, that funding will no longer be available after the end of 2024. A total of $1.9 million in funding for 20 full-time positions was requested in our budget submission, but has not been approved. The requested Fram Ryan Center's operating expenses total $640,000 to fund 5 full-time positions and 12 part-time positions, and $60,000 in supplies and services. This request has also not been approved. I'd like to go on to some of our important programs which Thad and Alex will be presenting. The department supports many important programs and services that are essential to the quality of life to residents of Columbus. Today, we'd like to highlight 2 programs that we feel contribute essential services to the city of Columbus. The Center Without Walls program began 6 years ago in 2018 and has been very successful in widening the department's ability to reach new areas of the city that do not have brick-and-mortar community centers. They do so by partnering with schools and other entities to share space. Program Manager Alex Passis would like to provide a highlight of this program and its successes.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Alex Passis, and I am the administrative manager for the youth programming section of the department. First, I would like to say thank you for allowing me the time and this platform to speak on the program. Also, thank you to my directors and my staff for supporting me in getting to this program where it is today. I would love to speak on the youth programming section, as we did start in 2018 with my supervisor, who's in the back, Antonio Combs, and I joined shortly after in 2019. Through 6 years, 2 of those years being COVID, we've expanded from 1 school all the way to 16 schools, and I'll go through our program right now. Our section actually is made up of 3 programs, and I'll start with our Center Without Walls program. That program is the program which goes to areas which does not have a traditional recreation center nearby, or sometimes it is not safe for the kids to walk to. Those are for our 6 through 14-year-old kiddos, and the locations are, we are currently at 10 schools now. Those schools are Wedgwood Middle School, Eakin Elementary School, Galloway Ridge, and Highland Elementary on the west side. On the north side, we have World Language and Dominion Middle School. On the east side, we are in Liberty Elementary School, Yorktown Middle School, and Columbus Preparatory for Girls. And lastly, we are in South High School on the south side. This program allows us to create a whole different side of recreation where the kids that are not able to go to the recreation centers, we were able to provide them high-quality programming. And those services are our after-school programs, summer camp programs. We also go into the schools during recess and lunch and school events such as field days and conduct programming and build relationships that way. And also we do community pop-ups where we don't have service programmings and special events partnered with our department or other programs around the city. Next is our Teen Impact program. That is for our 12 through 18-year-old teens. This is a citywide initiative where we host those at recreation centers all around the city, north, south, east, and west. Those programs are mainly to educate our youth and our teens on subjects they might not learn in school, such as financial literacy, such as digital footprint and leadership as well, and also get that fun side of the games. We bring in special guests, vendors, and take them on field trips. And lastly is our City Leaders Academy, which I'm not sure if many of you had got to meet, but they were here on Monday to a city council meeting. But that is our 9-month program, which is a special program where we teach them citizenship skills and how to the better workings of the city of Columbus. And those occur once a month. Through our programming, we have been able to offer our youth, especially our youth currently, which are mainly of low income or do not have transportation to get around the city, first-time experiences, which is major for us. Some of those experiences are collegiate sporting events, Premier League games. We took them to Alum Creek for a beach day every year, so they've never seen a body of water that big, some of the kids. And Scene 75 is our annual Christmas party, so we get to take them to a massive arcade where they get to ride different rides, laser tag, and arcade games as well. And some of the, our original goal in 2018 was to create a feeder system going from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade with these youth. And this year we were able to accomplish that with this, the expansion we earned, and also be in all quadrants of the city, which we have now been able to accomplish. Lastly as well, the number increases from 2023 to 2024. Some of those numbers are our participation has increased 73%. Our registration was able to increase 35%. Our program hours increased 35% as well. Our programming sites increased over 75%. And our recess and community outreach, we are able actually to increase over 175% of those programming sites and time. Other than, probably not sites, but I am used to being on the playground in Foursquare, so this is my first time. This is new to me, so I appreciate it again for letting me speak here. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Okay.
The other program, the other program that we'd like to highlight is the Voice Intervention Program. This program began in 2020 as an outreach program for youth and adults aged 11 to 40 who are victims of violence. The program acts as support to victims to provide a way forward out of violence. Program Manager Thad Alexander is here today to give you insight into this program.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this time I have in front of you, council members. I just want to thank my leadership team from Director Reese on down, my AD Don Turnage, my direct coordinator, Mr. Manny Clark, along with our partnership at Columbus Public Health that makes up the whole entire Voice team. As you can see, providing results with our data is a top priority for us, the Voice program, as we work with victims of crime. At the same time, our same priority holds true to us as far as building the necessary rapport and relationships with each Voice participant, which is a community member and potential being one of our direct neighbors. Also, as the only HVIP, which stands for a hospital-based intervention program in the city, we show up in the most traumatic and volatile times in someone's life. We go directly to the bedside to offer intense case management assistance and service so that individually wise, we don't have to endure this same incident again. Voice currently works with local hospitals, starting with our first hospital, which is our Level 1 Trauma Hospital, Grant Medical Center. Riverside and new to Voice in 2024 is Nationwide Children's Hospital, where we receive referrals for gunshot wounds victims, stabbings, and assault victims. Voice program main objective is no re-victimization and no retaliation, which we have been able to accomplish incredibly low numbers since the start of Voice. Intervention, prevention is tricky because impact is shown with low numbers or no numbers that exist. So it does get a little tricky there, but that shows the impact that we are making. We like to say we want to stop the ripple effects of violence because one incident can cause other ripple effects to occur in our communities and violence taking place. So if we could stop one, then that increases the ripple effects or reduces the ripple effects to occur in our neighborhoods. In order to accomplish those main objectives, one of the first things is giving the necessary required attention to participants to address their basic needs and barriers along with the mental health. The hospitals do an excellent job with the initial recovery process to get participants well enough to be discharged from the hospital, but unfortunately, from our experience, the ordeal hasn't stopped and is sometimes ongoing or even more volatile than the initial situation that started. Being the 14th largest city, we need an HVIP that works for our city. We have participants and their friends and family that are sometimes amazed and glad that we step in the hospital room and they say, wow, the city does this? The city, this is something that the city does, and it really speaks value to the city. I am born and raised in the city of Columbus, so I truly hold value to this process of what we are doing here to make a difference and impact in our city and our individuals' lives. I truly thank the city and the departments that strive to make the city of Columbus the safest, biggest city in America. We truly hold value to that again. I laughed to myself the other day because I said, if we're the safest biggest city in America, then that potentially could mean we're one of the safest, biggest cities in the world. And that really means something to us. And it truly holds value to everyone that we come across. I do have a couple just stories to tell, success stories here. Before I start with this young lady of ours, I'll start with something more recent. We have a young man that came into the Voice program this past summer. He was shot up to 5 times this summer. And as you can imagine, walking into to someone's bedside and their family and trying to make an impact, trying to just be an assistance to wherever we can, is truly a remarkable feat. But it's something that we commit ourselves daily to do here at Rex and Parks. And with that young man from the summer, he was able to start to recover. But in that meantime, there's still conflict that's still ongoing in those neighborhoods. We were able to help the family relocate from that side of town to the opposite side of town, which is great. At the same time, this young man, due to his injuries, has a skull flap that he has to get done at a surgery that has to be taking place here shortly at Nationwide Children's Hospital, colostomy bag, injury to his legs that could be a permanent disability. One great thing at Rex and Parks that we have is a therapeutic rec center, and we're able to utilize that. And that's something that the Nationwide Children's Hospital doctor at first didn't have any orders for him, but that is something that one of the Nationwide Children's Hospital doctors recommended. And now one of our community interventionists was able to start utilizing our therapeutic rec center and start helping him with his wellness mentally, physically, and emotionally through that. So again, it speaks volumes to our department and the city, again, of what we're doing here. And to this young lady, it was a very tragic incident that kind of happened outside of one of our centers where she was shot. But the irony of this is how Rex and Parks was able to stand in the gap again and help this young lady by going to her bedside, working with her, working not just with her. And again, when we are working with our participants, we're also working with the entire family and the household, and that affects the neighborhood, that affects our communities. So with this young lady, we were able to start working with her, getting her mental health together. She's able to go through counseling services, mental health services. We're able to suffice the basic needs of the family. And then we're able, as it comes to a full circle, we're able to connect with her first responders, who you're able to see here. We were able to connect with them because they were there to help her with surviving a life-threatening injury there of being a victim. And full circle comes around now where, of course, we have a fellowship meeting with the heroes there, the first responders. Of course, we share laughs and tears as well, but it's a great time to see a moment come full circle with someone. As you can see, you wouldn't even tell that she was in a life-threatening condition. And now that you could see in that picture, she's well and well off now in 2024. So we thank you, and I thank the city for that.
Thank you for sharing those stories. You know, so often people assume that recreation in parks is just fun, fluffy stuff. And our recreation parks is so much more. And those stories are incredible. I'm pretty confident that like 99.9% of the people who live and work in Columbus do not know about the incredible work that you're doing, about the lives changed, the healing that comes. That's just incredibly important work. We have seen so much violence across our country, which thankfully crime is down, but no matter how low crime is, when it happens to you, it's traumatic to you, to your family, to your community. And so thank you to you and your team for the incredible work that you are doing on that. That is just so important. And I hope that city leadership sees just how incredible that is and how important it is that this type of work continue, because it matters. It really matters. Tossing over to a more lighter and fun, Center Without Walls. Earlier this year, I secured additional funding so that we could have Center Without Walls, because I live in a part of the city that doesn't have recreation centers. A lot of people don't realize that their recreation centers aren't everywhere because they're incredibly expensive. And so the idea of bringing recreation programming to other communities is really valuable, because I served on the West Side as a pastor, did a lot of youth ministry, and kids are bored. They're bored, they're stuck at home with their siblings, which, you know, when I was stuck at home with my siblings, we fought all the time. Or sometimes you end up doing things that are stupid because, you know, your mom and dad or grandparents or whoever your caregiver is might not be home. A lot of them are working, you know, a couple of jobs even. And so the opportunity to have programming in your neighborhood is so important. Could you share like some of the activities that you all do that bring so much enrichment and joy to kids in our community?
Absolutely, I appreciate the question. So yes, again, thank you for the funding, because yes, that has broadened our programming by a large margin. And again, we started just with one school, now we're into 10, and now we're outside of 270, right? So it's a very good privilege.
The world exists
The world
outside
exists,
270.
yes, exactly, thank you. But yes, so no, some of the programming is we are evolutionizing as we are growing, because we're still not an infancy stage anymore, but we're now a solidified program. So we always started as a heavy recreation program. So we started with the group game. So myself and again, Antonio, we always preach getting a sweat ring, we called it. So by the end of the day, we wanted to have our shirts soaked in sweat because we know we did our job, right? So high activities such as capture the flag, dodgeball, your normal group games. We're also bringing in new staff the last 2 years, we've been hiring more art-heavy staff. So they have been doing music theory, they're doing sensory learning, they're doing clay, pottery, they're doing arts and crafts. We have now partnered with other programs where there's either just literacy and soccer. That is with one of our schools. Another program is a music STEM program. So they're deconstructing instruments and bringing them back up and learning how music can affect you than just more to the ears. Another stuff is we're going from now elementary to middle school. We have a lot more middle schools this year. So changing that programming to more teens rather than that elementary school. So it's a lot easier. Again, Foursquare is a common game, right? Teens don't love Foursquare anymore. So changing it, and I like to say they're always on the TikTok. So getting them off the TikTok and making sure it's a lot more mental pressure what they have now. So making sure they're in a safe, fun environment and creating those relationships, right? We have the programming, but to me, the relationship side is also very important, being role models, because not everyone has everyone at home, whether it's a mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. So being in those schools and making the relationships during the day and after the day is massive for our program.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the relationship component, because so many, particularly coming out of COVID, there's been so much isolation, and that has had a huge negative impact on the mental health of everyone, but particularly for young people who are still growing and their brains are developing and just not knowing how to deal with those feelings. It's incredible that you're offering more than just sports, because not everybody likes sports. But, to have music and all these other things so that kids with all different interests can be brought in and have those opportunities. And it gives you also the opportunity to discover something that you didn't know you might be interested in. If your family weren't musicians, then you don't think about that. So it's just kudos to all of you for the creativity and all the programming that you've brought together, because it really dramatically improves the quality of life. And that's what Rec and Park does. It improves the quality of life of our residents and the people who do business here in the city. So thank you so much for your work. Couple other questions on the less exciting part, but on the more funding part. So really, as it was mentioned, travel and training, the cuts that happened there. How is this lack of training specifically going to impact your department? Because a lot of people don't know that there are so many things that require training and recertification every year, and those are things that can have a big impact.
Thank you, Chair Dayakauer. When you talk about the training that goes on within our department, it's a large, I would say, work that we do. When you look at our operations work area, we're talking about gardeners, we're talking about pesticides, we're talking about landscapers. These are individuals that have to become certified and remain certified. Our arborists, they're climbing trees, so there's certain requirements that they have to have on an annual basis to maintain their certification. Every year, every summer, we're opening up 8 pools. Those 8 pools, we carry over 200 lifeguards. Those lifeguards must be certified through Red Cross, and then also making sure that they are CPR certified. Those are certain requirements that we have to have. So it's not just about traveling outside of the city and going to conferences and attending different things out of the city of Columbus, but it is how do we maintain the services directly in the city of Columbus to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our community.
Thank you, Director. Rec and Park, you're always expanding the facilities you have, the programs you have. And as was mentioned, that certain things did not get funded. How is cuts this wasn't cuts, just not even creating funding for essential operations of the new Fran Ryan Center, a center that I was there for the groundbreaking many years ago, that we were so excited to have this center for that provides programming for our older adults, which is critical for their quality of life. So if the funding doesn't come about for this, what kind of impact is this going to happen on our essential operations?
Well, we always say recreation, we're creative. And so being creative to find how do we fund? The most important thing that we value in our department, and that is our mission. Our mission says we connect, and we will continue to connect. And that is connecting individuals through what you heard today, those programs, but also other programs that we have outside of what we do. It's making sure that maybe we're taking a position from somewhere else, which means every area has to feel a little of the creativity that we're passing around, but it's making sure that we're still able to serve and meet the needs. Our senior population, which I value very much, because I say if we all keep living, we will all become part of that population. And so to make sure that we are serving that population with the best quality of life while they're here, we will continue to do that. It's an awesome building with some great programming that we're going to present starting in January. And so it's just making sure that we're still able to meet that need by moving some things around, making adjustments in areas that probably we wouldn't want to cut. Our mowers, our operations of outside work starts in April. So we're looking at all means of how do we still open that facility, and we will do that.
Thank you, Director. One of the things that, as I mentioned, people often think of recreation and parks as being fluffy stuff, but it really has a huge impact on the quality of life here in Columbus. So can you just share with our audience, here and online, the proven positive benefits of public access to parks and recreation?
One of the stats that our national organization, that's, National Recreation and Parks Association, highly speaks about, and that is every time you pass a park, it reduces your heart, and they say your heart rate, and brings down that pressure. So it sends you into a relaxation mode. That's just one benefit. When you think about trees and the planning and conservation piece of what we do within our park area, the more trees, the less probably breathing and asthma problems that we see across this city. And so areas that have more trees, you have less, I would say, complications when it comes to breathing, because that's the oxygen that's flowing a little better. And so we have a goal. We're planting more trees on an annual basis. We're making sure that we still maintain a quality of life that people want to come to the city of Columbus, and not just want to come and tour, but to be a part of the city. And so it's so many things that we could talk about of the benefits that recreation does, but it does bring about a relaxation. We always say, if you're not having fun in the Department of Recreation and Parks, then something's wrong about what we're doing. So we want to make sure everyone is relaxing, having fun, and enjoying themselves.
Thank you. Everywhere else in the country, it's called Parks and Recreation, but we're Recreation and Parks. Share with our audience why recreation comes first.
It's people first. Recreation is all about the people. And if you don't have the people to get in the parks, you're kind of hurting a little bit. So it is about service. And when you think about services, who do you serve? You serve the people. It's the people of this community that's most important about what we do on a continuous basis. And we want to make sure that that's our priority, and that is people, not just external people in the community, but also how do we serve each other. And so it comes back to us directly, but also making sure that we're meeting the needs of the community and the people that's in our community.
Thank you, Director. I'm now going to turn the floor over to my colleague, Councilmember White.
Yeah, so thank you, one, for mentioning all the sustainability words so I can ask you questions about them. Conservation being one of them is kind of again, not to bring down the mood, but monarch butterflies are likely going to receive federal protection and be listed on endangered species lists, mainly because there are just not enough pollinator gardens across the country to sustain that population. I know the conservation team, one of their goals was to expand and enhance pollinator habits by 2 acres by the beginning of 2025. And I know you added 2 pollinator spaces in 2024. Can you just speak to how this proposed budget will support further expansion of pollinator gardens?
It gives us an opportunity, first of all, to look at a lot of green space that we haven't really ventured out into the conservation plans. And something that I think our outdoor team is doing, and that is, how do we look at those areas and make sure that we're expanding out, looking at our pollinators. We're proud that we are doing it. I think on a national level, we are probably within the first 5 organizations that's really deemed one of those organizations that's looking at pollinator gardens and how we improve our conservation plan. It's the blue ways and it's the green ways, and ensuring that we're reaching out beyond just the urban area, but outside of the inner city, to the outside areas. It's going into the 270s. It's the Darby area and making sure we're reaching a lot of those areas. We're working with ODNR. And so not just funding from within the city, but this is also looking at state funding as well as federal funding and how do we improve our conservation plans, I think, across the city. You mentioned about two additives. We are looking at how do we improve and increase the acreage. And we're doing that in some of our greenways. And so we're pretty sure we're going to meet that goal that we've set there in those 2 acres. So I would say if we don't meet it by the beginning of 25, at least give us to the middle of 25. I'm sure we'll be there.
Well, thank you for that. I think it would probably be pretty hard to plant a garden in the middle of the winter time. So, yeah, we can give you to the second quarter to figure that out. No, that's all the questions I had, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, well, last, certainly not least, we have Grayson Hart from Sustainable Columbus here to talk about environmental efforts of the city reflected in this budget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grayson Hart. I'm the Climate Action Plan Implementation Manager with Sustainable Columbus. Thank you, Chair Day Akauer and Councilmember Weish for this opportunity to speak about Sustainable Columbus and our plans for 2025. I'll give a brief overview of our office and climate action plan, then the budget and some grant opportunities that we're taking advantage of, followed by some time for questions. The Sustainable Columbus office is housed within the Department of Public Utilities. Our mission is to empower our community to thrive through sustainable resources, programming, and policy. Our vision is to reduce environmental impact so that we can all prosper, be healthy, and enjoy our world together. The Columbus Climate Action Plan is our guiding document. This plan is a community-wide climate mitigation and resilience plan that commits Columbus to be carbon neutral by 2050 with a 45% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, all driven by and centering our work in equity, anti-racism, and environmental justice. This is the ambition of the Columbus Climate Action Plan, the 45% reduction by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2050. There are 5 sections of the Columbus Climate Action Plan: Climate Solutions, the Columbus Way, Sustainable Neighborhoods, Buildings, Transportation, and Waste. In total, the Climate Action Plan identifies 13 strategies and 32 key actions, and more than 70 targets identified as necessary to implement to meet our climate and resilience goals. Driving progress towards these actions and targets brings me to the 2025 budget. To support our work and deliver on our ambitious goals, Sustainable Columbus office is divided into 3 distinct sections: citywide sustainability, DPU sustainability, and regulatory compliance. I'm here today to speak to the sustainability side. In 2025, we have budgeted just under $1 million for personnel from the general fund. This supports 9 full-time staff, primarily in the citywide sustainability part of the office and the climate section under Aaron Beck. This is blue on the screen, green on the screen. DPU has additionally allocated just over $1.2 million from its enterprise funds for Sustainable Columbus personnel working on DPU sustainability initiatives under Janine Weber. This funding supports staff who work on the Blueprint Columbus initiative, Columbus Green Spot, the Lead Service Line Replacement Program, One Water initiative, and regulatory policy advocacy. Additionally, the Sustainable Columbus budget includes about $600,000 in funding for professional services, supplies, and materials to support sustainability efforts. Examples include support for furnishing new office space, communication support, professional development memberships, and regular contracts, such as the annual greenhouse gas inventory and the solar co-op work. For 2025, the general fund budget will allocate $3.15 million to support workforce programs and energy efficiency initiatives. $1.65 million of that will support workforce development in the clean energy sector, by continuing and improving the Empowered program that we have partnered with Impact Community Action to develop and implement. This program creates pathways for young people 18 and over from all backgrounds and communities. The Empowered program serves as an entrance for young people to explore careers that will improve air quality, increase the comfort of our homes, and make our infrastructure stronger. The remaining $1.5 million from the general fund will support the Clean Clothes Initiative, providing energy-efficient replacement of washers and dryers, refrigerators, freezers, and stoves, and the enhanced weatherization in Columbus Opportunity Neighborhoods to provide energy efficiency services such as insulating the attics, ducts, pipes, floors, and heating unit maintenance. It includes repair or replacement to residents in our Opportunity Neighborhoods who are experiencing significant energy burdens, but whose income falls just outside income thresholds set by the federal government for eligibility for the Federal Home Weatherization Assistance Program. In 2025, our team is continuing to consider how we can improve residential energy efficiency programming, further incorporate heat pump technology, and coordination amongst organizations providing home repair resources. Before moving into questions, I wanted to mention 4 federal funding and grant opportunities that Sustainable Columbus has received that are enhancing our work. First, in 2024, Sustainable Columbus received $778,900 from the U.S. Department of Energy and formula grant funding from the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, and we are in the process of using these funds to partner with the Human Services Chamber to improve energy efficiency in buildings owned or occupied by our community's nonprofits. Secondly, Sustainable Columbus received $1 million from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to update the Columbus Climate Action Plan and create a regional climate action plan covering the Columbus Metropolitan Statistical Area. Third, to further support our energy efficiency in buildings work, our office has partnered with the Department of Building and Zoning Services to benefit from a $13 million in grant funding from the Department of Energy to support equitable pathways to building performance standards in a high-performance building hub. Columbus is partnering with the cities of Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Dayton on this work to maximize and be efficient in our collective impact in Ohio. We're also proud to be part of a global effort through the Bloomberg's Youth Climate Action Fund, and we received and administered $50,000 this year for a micro-grant program for youth-led climate projects. We're hopeful to continue this partnership and program in 2025. Thank you again for this opportunity for me to share information about Sustainable Columbus and our work, and I will open it up to questions.
Thank you. I have just one question, because I'm going to toss it to my colleague, because sustainability is his specialty here. Here in the city, we're preparing for the loss of federal COVID funds. Is your office concerned about further losses of federal funding now that we're having a change of administration?
Thank you for that question. Funding directly awarded to the city is secure, but we are still assessing some of the impacts of federal administration changes on expected energy efficiency and solar dollars that are proposed to flow to the state for residential rebates and solar installations. I will say that with the uncertainty at the federal level, local leadership is all the more important to secure our climate commitments and build a better future for our residents.
Thank you. And I'll now turn the floor over to my colleague, Councilmember Weich.
Thank you. And Grayson, appreciate you kind of walking through Sustainable Columbus, the Climate Action Plan, and then kind of previewing the budget as well. Can you just speak to how this budget compares to previous?
Sure. So 4.2 million of the total of 8.77 reflects the continuation budget presented. The remaining budget there includes Department of Public Utilities sustainability staff and DPU sustainability projects, including energy efficiency, EV charging infrastructure, and solar projects. CW014, the budget guidance, went out to the city to try to capture some of the sustainability elements and climate action elements tied to some of the targets in our climate action plan. And much of the change between this year and last year was the Department of Public Utilities utilizing that budget guidance. And that was mostly from EV charging from the Division of Water and the Public Utilities Department, some solar power purchase agreements in the Division of Power, and then some lighting and environmental cleanup and some other pieces. So that change, a lot of that came from a budget guidance. So I would say that under Sustainable Columbus, that total number, which is a jump from previously, is due to that that budget guidance CW014 to try to capture the total expenditures across the city to determine how much money is being spent and devoted to sustainability funds. So that's where the majority of that change comes from.
But if you had to simplify it, flat from previous years, increase, decrease, to continue the work that you're doing?
More or less a continuation budget. I don't have a percentage
Yeah.
worked out. I could provide that information for you.
No, that's perfect. And then as we look to 25, obviously there are benchmarks and goals that are expected. Do you feel as if this budget will allow the department to accomplish those goals within the year?
I do. So the Climate Action Plan mentioned the actions and targets and the strategies earlier in the presentation. We have 3 tiers in terms of time. So 2025 targets, 2030 targets, and 2050 targets. One of the things our office did this year for the first time was to create a progress report for the Climate Action Plan. And in there, we discussed the status of and the progress towards all of the 2025 targets, taking up a lot of precedent and time and attention to try and meet those. Those 2025 targets generally go to support the 2030 targets to set us on the right stage to move forward there. And I would say that the budget and staffing within our office, but across the city, to pay attention to these targets, budgets like these help us afford the attention and time required to pay attention towards and move towards those targets.
Appreciate that. And yes, obviously we know that things kind of build upon each other to kind of help us reach larger goals at 2030 and 2050. So it is important that we have the funding necessary to do the work, both within public utilities, but across city departments. So I appreciate you kind of just sharing a little bit more about that. Chair, I'll be honest, he kind of went through a lot of it in the presentation that I wanted to ask to, so it's always bad when they know the topics we want to question, because then they give them to us ahead of time. But no, I appreciate that. I wasn't sure, Chair, if you had any other questions, but if not, then I'm good.
No, that was very, very thorough. Yes. Thank you so much for coming down and sharing that information. That's a lot of times people don't really think about the sustainability work that our city does, and so that's really important work. This actually concludes our department presentations for the evening. I want to thank all the departments, all the staff, the people who came to listen for giving the presentations and answering our questions. We do have one speaker who signed up for public testimony. So we will now invite Chet Ridenour up to speak. Welcome to Council Chambers, and please state your name to make sure that I pronounced it correctly. And are you here representing yourself or an organization? Or?
My name is Chet Ridenour. I am representing myself. I do have the pleasure of serving in a couple different roles in my neighborhood as the president of our neighborhood foundation and the coordinator for our block watch. Good afternoon, Day Acauer, our chair and co-chair Weich. I'm here to advocate for our city and for our neighborhoods where more of our neighbors are connected to each other so that they can build resilience and community by becoming a real-world social support and safety network for each other right on the block where they already live. I've had more than a few conversations with your colleagues, with city staff, and with community leaders across Columbus. And they have almost universally understood how incorporating the benefits of asset-based community development, or ABC for short, into our city planning can make an incredibly positive impact on the health, happiness, and safety for our neighbors. As a longtime community organizer who has spent nearly 10,000 hours investing in our neighborhoods, I want to share a few facts that I've learned that support this work. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has shown that one of the most likely indicators for how well communities bounce back after a disaster or a crisis is how well they know their neighbors. When an emergency strikes and our first responders are spread thin across higher priority runs, it's going to be those relationships with the people living nearby that make the biggest impact on our health and safety of our families. A global study by Nextdoor found that knowing as few as 6 neighbors begins to build connectivity, community, reduce anxiety, reduce loneliness, and more. Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government research indicates that when comparing 2 equal communities, one where there's 10% more police presence and another where there are 10% more neighbors know each other's names, the community where neighbors are better connected will have better long-term outcomes. And in Robert Putnam's best-selling book, Bowling Alone, he discovered that joining and participating in just one group cuts in half your odds of dying in the next year. To further this cause, I'd like to reiterate a few of the recommendations that I previously shared with your staff and many other community leaders, including number 1, advocating for a paradigm shift to encourage city departments to incorporate ABCD strategies into their planning and programming. I think the New Americans Leadership Academy, My Brother's Keeper, Village Communities, and even Walk with the Doc. Number 2, incorporating ABCD training into the continuing education of city staff, like in the Department of Neighborhoods and the Department of Safety. Number 3, adding ABCD strategy education into existing trainings already being offered to community civic associations and area commissions. I highly recommend this book, The Connected Community. It's all about discovering the health and wealth and power of our neighborhoods. I feel like it provides a great pathway, discussion prompts that would be very valuable to our city teams. Right now, there's a documentary out there on Netflix called Join or Die. Can I have just a couple of minutes? Thank you so much. Which is a follow-up to Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone. It's available on Netflix. Highly recommend that. And then I would also encourage our city to consider launching a pilot on a few small blocks in 3 to 5 different neighborhoods to work through some of these implementations, learnings, iterate, and then scale to reach more neighbors. This work would be certainly supported in partnership with many other community partners. I know I've had great conversations with United Way of Central Ohio and the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation and many other city departments. In closing, I believe that asset-based community development has so many benefits, and so I'm here to reach out to you all and our city departments and staffs to see who would be interested in connecting with me to better understand how we could integrate this one strategy that could help solve dozens of other problems. So again, thank you for this time this afternoon in advance for your consideration.
Thank you. Well, let me make you an introduction. This is Director Douglas. Would you like to, offer any comments there or help make that connection?
I'm interested. Department of Neighborhoods, and I was just speaking with my deputy who is very aware of the work and has mentioned that there have been conversations, so I would be happy to engage again. I will have my office to reach out.
Fantastic.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions, I should say, before he walks? No? Thank you so much. We still, as of the last hour, have not received any more requests for public testimony, so that will conclude the public testimony portion of our hearing. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. You all have places that are far more exciting to be than City Hall from 4 to 6 p.m. on a cold night, and so I really appreciate your coming down here, listening to the presentations, learning about the proposed budget for 2025. Council is now in the review phase of the mayor's budget as we prepare to make our amendments and see how we can, tweak things to even better serve the people of Columbus. It's a team effort to do a budget. Administration and council work together on that. And so we're looking forward to concluding our work. in the interim, for the public out there who is interested in this topic, and for those of you who are present, please, reach out if something pops into your mind later about something you want to make us aware of, ideas you might have. Feel free to reach out and be heard, because this is a team process. I look forward to our continued conversations with the department and the residents, council colleagues and administration as we work on bringing this city forward in the positive direction that we are all working towards. My colleague, Councilmember White, do you have anything you'd like to add? No? So quiet today. So with that, thank you, everyone. That concludes our Neighborhoods, Recreation, Parks, and Sustainability 2025 budget hearing. Have a good evening, everyone.